Alright, we're gonna turn down the volume a bit. God, this artist is awesome. I think it's called Brainless. Just got recommended them the other day. Hey yo, it's Vanta. Recording in 4K at 30 frames per second, so let's see how that comes out. I generally stick to 1080p at 60 frames because I mean that's pretty good, but the graininess of the 1080p bothered me, so we'll see how this 4K turns out. I've never tried it on this camera, but I guess I'd like to talk about I don't know, maybe why small bikes are more fun than like larger displacement bikes. You know, this being a middleweight. Fuck out of here. You know, this is like a middle displacement bike. Obviously, it's 650, but it's an inline four, so it's it's a larger engine, and and it produces more power than most like I guess you would say Japanese middleweights of the size. Excluding like the R6 or like competition bikes. But I would consider this a large bike, especially to someone who's not accustomed to riding. This is definitely going to feel like a large bike to people. And I feel like the unintimidation factor of smaller bikes makes it just more fun for riders all around. Because I mean I feel like people around here, when you're out in public on a bike, if you're on a smaller bike, you're seen less as like a menace and like an asshole. If you're like on a small cube bike, as opposed to being on something like a R6, a CBR 600RR, those kind of bikes, Ducatis, Harleys even. So yeah. So I feel like I'm treated a little bit better. Ooh, we got riders. That's cool. But yeah, I feel like I get treated a little bit better on smaller bikes that look cute, like the Rebel 250, Grom, all that stuff. So I kind of feel at ease at doing whatever the hell I want on those kind of bikes. And that's kind of what I like to do on small bikes. I just like doing, small dumb shit. Like, going to like parking lots or places where it's questionable whether you're trespassing or not. And just doing, dumb shit like wheelies and stuff, stoppies, just stuff I normally wouldn't do on this bike because one, the weight, I don't want this, almost 500-pound motorcycle falling on me, and maybe even the noise. The noise is what alerts people to your where you're at, and also like again, it's like you're doing dumb shit on a cute bike. You're just like people. If you see someone doing that, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. He's not hurting anybody. As opposed to if you're doing it on a Ninja or something, something similar looking. People are gonna just look at you like you're an asshole. So again, I feel a lot more. I feel like the dumber shit I do in public is more acceptable on a smaller bike because of those reasons. Especially lane splitting. I rarely have had an issue lane splitting on a smaller bike, and you can kind of you can lane split even more aggressive on a small bike because of how easy it is to manipulate the weight and the mass. But you start to do that on a bigger bike, people get nervous. They start getting kind of agitated. And again, you can't really lane split at the same rate that you would on a small bike when it comes to like super low speed stuff, just because of the weight. Yeesh. Kind of off topic, but generally when I see cars like this that have some kind of bad damage to it, regardless if it's their fault or not, I generally stay away from cars like this because it is a sign that it could be a sign that they're a bad driver. There, there's all kind of different signs you can pick up, but that's the having damage on your car is definitely one sign. So yeah, if you see something like this, just stay away from cars like this. Never a good idea to drive next to them. Whether that be on a bike or a car, doesn't matter. But yeah, I'm just gonna return something. I built a new PC and the power supply unit is defected or something. Wait, what the fuck? Why are they not open? Ah, bitch. Oh, they're closed. Wow. Let's find some shade and see what I can do. It's a return through Amazon, so I don't know if I can change the location of the where to ship it. There's a Kohl's down the street, maybe like 2-3 miles from here. Hope I can just go to them. Alright. Let's drop it in gear. I don't know why people are scared of like dropping it in gear to turn off the bike. It's totally fine. And in some places like this right now, I'm on a hill, like a slight incline. It's kind of necessary. Doesn't do anything bad to the bike. Alright, and I'm back. Fixed the return issue. Now we're going to go to Kohl's to return my power supply unit. Which, I gotta go this way. I'm not really into building computers. I just built it because I want to edit videos, and I know it can be a cheaper option to build it yourself, but I was recommended a 500 watt unit from EVG. I believe that's the name of the company, the brand, and it just kept on like crapping out, and like just not forced, but just the computer would just shut off, during a render, and I never looked at like the diagnostics, but just feeling the unit when that happened, it was really fucking hot. So I upgraded it to a 750 watt unit from AVG or something. I don't know what these companies are. And I rendered one video at a pretty low spec, and it's doing pretty well. But I have yet to like actually test it to see how it runs the the video editing software. Just to go back into what I was saying, spotlight bikes, way more fun, at least on the streets, than bikes like this. Granted, I do love this bike, but the only real reason I bought it wasn't really for the power or anything. It was just because it's an inline four, and I always wanted that the screamy nature of inline fours, and this one provides, albeit not as much as like a 600 RR or an R3, but just enough for to make me happy. And oh, got roadkill. But yeah, with a small bike, one thing I love too is like you can just mash on the throttle. You can pretty much be full throttle everywhere, depending on the size of the bike too. But you can pretty much go full throttle anywhere and not really have to worry about speed limits or aggravating the police to the point where they'll stop you. As opposed to this one, I just accelerate, moderately on here, and immediately you got all kinds of eyes on you because the bike's so loud and so flashy. forget it's was Sunday, so all the Harley riders are out. Another thing to consider too is the ego. You know, even if you don't really have an ego, you know, just having some bigger bike, you know, you're way more capable of, like, you know, beating cars at races and stuff. So you're always kind of challenging yourself to not be getting involved in that stuff when you know, cars present that opportunity to you, as opposed to a small bike. You can still go full throttle and stuff, but it doesn't really like illustrate to anyone that you're wanting a race, because again, you're still going pretty slow. So that's one thing I love about small bikes too. You can go as fast as you want, and you're not really prompting anyone around you to race you. As opposed to this one, you know, just go, like, again, I accelerate modestly on it because it's so loud and flashy. You get all these Mustangs and all kinds of, you know, racer boys that want to race you. Which, I mean, yeah, it's fun if you're into that, but you know, I just like being left alone when I'm out here. You know, I want to have as little contact with cars as possible out here. Another thing to consider as well is, you know, fuel economy. I'm not sure why the, you know, older, smaller displacement bikes are really fucking awesome at, like, you know, high MPGs. I'm not sure why, you know, smaller bikes, unless you get like a Grom or something, they're not too great on fuel economy. But again, if you get like an older bike, something with like a carburetor too, I think that helps improve the fuel economy. You know, for example, like my Rebel 250, easily, without even trying, you can get 70 miles per gallon on that bike. Which you're pretty much, you know, the fuel, you know, the cost of commuting and fuel cost, maintenance costs and all that is pretty much non-existent compared to owning a car or even like a bigger bike. You know, this one, you know, it's all right. It can be better. It gets 55 miles per gallon maximum, 45 the lowest I've seen. But still, like, you kind of do feel the expense of fuel when you ride this bike, especially when you really want to ride it hard. Plus, you know, I'm always putting, you know, good tires on the bike, all that stuff. Good tires, good oil. So it's pretty expensive, as opposed to a smaller displacement bike that is not going to wear it's not going to wear down the equipment nearly as fast as a middleweight or something bigger. Oh fuck. No ABS. Yeah, like even with my CB500F, granted it is a low horsepower bike, despite riding it hard, the rear tire never flattened out ever in like the 15,000 miles that I've owned it. But this bike, you know, after 8,000 miles, it desperately needed a new tire because it was just flat. It was like a slick, which is insane because I think it just attributes to like the braking power of this bike. It's far more substantial than a beginner bike, and so yeah, you're just gonna be consuming tires and oil way faster, and you're gonna be, you know, having to buy more expensive equipment for your larger bikes, as opposed to a small bike. You can pretty much the tire will last you pretty much, you know, up until the point where it's like I don't know, like the natural lifespan of the tire, so like 2 years or whatever, you know, whatever the manufacturer decides is it's too old and it's getting too dry for traction. You're never going to really run out of tread on those smaller displacement bikes. And, you know, I think even if you're changing oil constantly, since they are such low horsepower bikes, you don't really have to put like super high quality, you know, like Motul full synthetic or, you know, anything similar like Mobil 1. You can just put like the shitty Castrol GTX stuff and never have to worry about like oil in that regards, you know. You know, for like an oil change for this, doing it all myself, it'll probably cost me like $60 to $80, depending on, you know, when and how I buy them. buy the stuff. But on a smaller displacement bike, is it this store? Yeah, it is. On a smaller displacement bike, I only, even for both the Rebel 250 and the 500, I'll only pay like $30 max on the oil filter. So yeah, you definitely do feel the cost of maintenance on a bigger machine. You're buying, you know, premium consumables. And again, not that, you know, every motorcyclist has to be budget conscious, but if you are, and you do want to enjoy the easy financial costs of motorcycles, smaller bikes make it way easier to achieve or to attain that kind of lifestyle. But we're gonna do a return right now, so I'll be back. All right, we're back. Let's that was a success. Now on to the deli to go pick up some cheese. I believe I need some heavy cream as well, and maybe some pasta. Yeah, but another thing to consider, besides the, you know, the cost of maintenance on the bike, is also you know, injury, both to yourself and the bike. You know, every kind of anyone who starts out riding, they're gonna be dropping the bike left and right. You know, it all depends on how hard you ride and stuff, and you know, the limits you're willing to push. But let's wait. All right, he's gone. But yeah, when you learn, you're gonna be dropping the bike a ton, and you know, I dropped the bike a lot on my Rebel 2. You know, when I owned the Rebel 250. And sorry, I was just paying attention to the clutch and the chain. Something's going on with it. But yeah, I dropped the bike a lot on my Rebel 250, and I didn't really sustain, you know, serious injuries. You know, I just, you know, scraped my knees, my foot, my ankle, whatever. Nothing huge, you know, just the usual road rash and, you know, like the soreness that comes with it. But however, once I got the CB500F, which weighed significantly more than the Rebel 250, that's when I got into some real bad accidents. Mainly just one real bad accident where I dropped the bike on myself during a corner, and I had the foot peg. I had the foot peg just. Let's go this way. Sorry, I'm like super distracted. I had the foot peg puncture my ankle. You know, and that was a really bad accident. I was very lucky that it didn't really hit any bone or tendons. It was just, you know, it just hit muscle pretty much. You know, and I recovered fine from that. You know, it was pretty much like, I was never hospitalized for whatever, but you know, I was pretty much on crutches for a couple weeks. And it was a really nasty, like, recovery process. You know, how they had to, since it's a puncture, they keep on, pulling the scab off and having to disinfect it. It's really fucking gross. But yeah, that's one thing to consider. If you're learning, dropping the bike, it's inevitable. and you want something that weighs, you'd rather have something that weighs 250 or 300 pounds fall on you than something that weighs close to 500 pounds. Thank God I've never dropped this bike. Have I? No, I haven't. But I can't imagine, having just something as massive as this, even though it weighs close to the CB500F, just fall on me. Wouldn't want that to happen, and I wouldn't want that to happen to the bike either, because, the heavier a bike is, the harder the harder the, how do you explain it? The heavier the bike, the harder the fall. So, you're going to be breaking more parts, you're going to be causing far more damage than you would on a smaller bike. And thank God, the the Rebel 250 came with saddlebags that protected the bike from most falls. But yeah. So like the CB, again, I dropped it bad once, and it cracked pretty much like everything on the left side of the bike. Like the handlebar was bent, the front headlight unit was cracked, the side cowl was cracked. No dents to the tank, thank God. But I had to replace like the whole the rear unit, the rear fairing unit. I don't know what's called, the tail. Like the plastics around it, because that was cracked. And even though the Rebel, it doesn't have any plastic, it sustained like very little damage, despite all the times that dropped it at similar speeds. So yeah, that's one thing to consider. Again, I definitely need to get, like crash protection on this bike, but even with crash protection, this bike is gonna absorb a lot of freaking damage. Come on, dude. Plus, another thing to consider too is like you're falling from a much lower height on a smaller bike. Even falling at a height of a cruiser, you're gonna feel pretty fucked up from it. You're gonna be really sore, your hips, you might even break something. But whatever forces you feel there, just double it, because you're on like a sport bike or a naked bike, because you're sitting approximately like 30% higher than you would on a cruiser. So maybe not double it, but like third it. Whatever force you feel times 1.3. Alright, light's about to turn in like 3, 2, 1. Maybe, no. This guy's gonna run the light, maybe. Yep. What does he want to do? And again, I just full throttle because I loved going full throttle, and I was doing 70 miles an hour. Like, easily, if a cop was behind me, they have every reason to stop me and ask for my information. And on a small bike, you don't really give that to them because, again, you're not going crazy ass speeds. God, this guy sucks at fucking driving. This might be a moot point to a lot of people, but one thing that I kind of wish I had a small displacement bike right now is because I want to loan it out to people who are curious about riding, like my little brothers or my girlfriend, and I definitely don't feel comfortable letting them borrow this bike because, again, it's not really top heavy, but because the inline four, it's kind of it's easy to tip over, unless you really know how to balance the bike. And, I don't really fear that if I were to give them like a Grom or a Rebel 250 or something similar. And even if they were to drop it, the damage done to it is going to be very minimal. It's not going to really matter. As opposed to this, if someone drops it, even just from like from it being parked, you're gonna be paying a lot of money just to replace the parts. You know, like the cowl is probably gonna be. I'm pretty sure there's like $100, $120, and whatever scratches to the casings, you know, and those are like $300 a pop. And generally, if I'm gonna loan out my bike to somebody, you know, if they're curious to ride, I'm not gonna, you know, hold them responsible for any damage that they do to it because they're learning. If I'm gonna give them a bike, it's because, oh shit. If I'm gonna give them a bike, you know, I want them to learn those mistakes on the bike that I gave them. So I'm not again, I wouldn't be too worried about them dropping the bike or, you know, damaging it. Yeah, of course, if they fucking like completely just wreck the bike, you know, they run it head first into like a wall at full speed, yeah, they might want to pay for the bike. But I mean, if they just drop it because they don't really know how to balance the bike, or they stall and they end up dropping it, whatever, like, it's no big deal. Plus, you know, again, parts on smaller bikes are really cheap. Like, I think to replace all the plastics on a Grom is only like $100 or $200, as opposed to not $200, probably just $100 max. I've never looked into it, but yeah, as opposed to this, drop it just on one side, you're paying close to like $300 to $400, just for, like, you know, cracks and all that stuff. And that's not to say like they did any damage to the engine too. Because especially with bigger bikes, if you were to drop it without any kind of crash protection, even with crash protection, sometimes your risk of damaging the motor is significantly higher than a smaller displacement bike. We got a bunch of Harley boys. I think they're too cool for me, though. I'm not going to acknowledge my presence. We'll see. I like the guy in the back. That bike's pretty cool. The bobber. Love bobbers. I love to own a bobber, like to fabricate my own from like a Shadow 600 or something. But yeah, I think those are all my points. If you watched the entire video, thanks. Hopefully that helped. Valkyrie, huh? It's a sick bike. Yeah, that's cool. I've always wanted one. Always wanted one of those. Yeah, yeah.